Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live and proudly from the Hesselson studio right here in the heart of the Gaffer District on Marcus Street. We have a very exciting show in store for you today, and we have all week, haven't we? We've been very busy. Today, we're going to hear from a former congressman, current New York State Assemblyman, and also the chair of the Steuben County GOP. That's all one person, and that's Joe Sempolinski. He's going to be joining us in the 7 o'clock hour. We appreciate him being on the program. A lot of questions as we lead up to primary day, which is next Tuesday. Yes, less than a week away on the 23rd. And that leads to our first comment from a viewer. I haven't voted but just once for Trump. I like to know if I didn't vote, can I vote in the primary? Please don't think that's stupid. That's not stupid at all. People ask that question a lot. If they're not potentially a regular voter, and primary makes it even more confusing. I mean, I have people, and I know I've mentioned this numerous times, will say, well, I'll worry about it in the general. Well, in these elections that are coming up on Tuesday, if you don't vote for them in the primary, and if they're not successful in the primary, they're not going to see general election day in November. The loser of many of these races will not move forward to the final elimination round in the general election. So the primaries, as I've made the argument on this program numerous times this week and last week, your vote matters even a little bit more. And why I say that is historically, primary voter turnout is much lower than the general election, and sometimes pathetically so. Some of these races could be decided by, I'm not exaggerating here, 1 or 2 votes, because there's not just the major race in Chemung that we've been talking about all week. Yesterday we had Chemung County Executive Chris Moss on the program. The week before, his opponent, Mark Margison. That is arguably the biggest primary race, and I don't really know if there's much of an argument there in our general area. So if you're in Chemung County, that is a major one. So as long as you, to this viewer that asks, as long as you are registered to vote, and you said that you had voted for Trump once, that tells me that you are registered to vote. Now, if you are registered to vote as a Republican, you can vote on Tuesday for either Chris Moss or Mark Margison. Now, if you are an independent, you can't vote on next Tuesday. If you're a Democrat, you have I shouldn't say quite a few options, but you have some major decisions to make. Because if you are a Democrat, you get to choose who will move forward for New York State Comptroller on the Democrat ticket and the United States House of Representatives, the next congressperson. Let me reword that. The next potential congressperson that will face Congressman incumbent Nick Langworthy. So if you are a Democrat, you'll have the option to choose between Thomas DiNapoli, Drew Warsaw, or Raj Goyal for New York State Comptroller. And the winner of that will then move on to face Joseph Hernandez, who we interviewed on the program maybe about a month ago. He's on the Republican ticket. Then in New York's Congressional District 23, currently represented by Nick Langworthy, he's a Republican. He is unchallenged, so the Democrat that will face him in November will either be Kevin Stocker or Aaron Geese. They are facing each other. And then if you're on the outskirts and you're in Congressional District 24, that's Avoca, Cohocton, Dansville, Prattsburgh, Poultney, Wayland, Wheeler, you have the option as a Democrat to pick between Elisa Ellman or Diana Castrobaum, okay? So that's the Democrats. Now, if you are a Republican, as we mentioned, in Chemung, there's a bunch of different races going on. The major one is, of course, again, Chris Moss. And as far as I know, that's the only one on the ballot for the primary. So you have Chris Moss and you have Mark Margison. Now, in Steuben at the local level, I'll have to find the list of Chemung County. I apologize, I don't have that right in front of me. But in Steuben County, if you are a Republican in Campbell, Corning, the town of Corning, I should say, Irwin, Lindley, or Rathbone, you will have an option next week to go in and vote. The reason we say it's going to be low turnout, in many of those instances, it's just 2 people on the ballot. One will move on, as I said, to the next round. So not a quote-unquote stupid question at all, a great question. If you have voted, if you are registered to vote, very often you should have gotten a slip in the mail that says you're registered to vote and where you will vote. But if you have any questions, I know you can go to your Board of Elections either online, I believe you can call, or in person and ask them, are you eligible to vote? Maybe your address changed, something like that. So, no, great question. And anytime you give me the opportunity to talk about the primaries, I will do so. Okay, Mark writes in and says, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. Did you see the clip where a horse and carriage took off like a blast in New York City? It ended up hitting another carriage, wounding some, and yes, and killing, I believe it was a teenage tourist. It was horrible. I did see that video. It was horrible. Mark continues, and like I said, they're calling Trump's deal with Iran a losing deal. Yeah, one Republican, we'll tell you who in just a second, said Ronald Reagan would be rolling over in his grave for such a deal. That was none other than retiring, I wonder why he's retiring, Senator Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy, you may recall that name, was ousted by a Trump-backed, a Trump-endorsed rival in his primary. And not to confuse people, our primary is this Tuesday. Other states have different days for their primary. But now the media can run with the headlines, and I have numerous examples of this, GOP skepticism of this deal. And it's Bill Cassidy, who was ousted by Trump. It's the Marjorie Taylor Greens. It's some of these people that they keep telling us over and over are conservative commentators. And one, we've never heard of them, or number two, they're people that long ago decided they could make a lot more money if they're constantly critical on Trump and still hold that moniker of being quote-unquote conservative and quote-unquote Republican. So they'll call themselves conservative, call themselves Republican, and then they'll go on and criticize Trump and MAGA, etc. So yes, to Mark's point, this is the exact quote. Reagan is rolling over in his grave. Iran's nuclear ambitions were not curbed, and they have learned that threatening the Strait of Hormuz works and will undoubtedly leverage it in the future. Again, that's retiring Senator Bill Cassidy. Bill Cassidy, and they're calling it, I don't like this name, but I guess Cassidy and others are now being called, in the GOP, are being called the YOLO caucus. Now, YOLO is a kind of outdated slang term. It was very popular, I don't know, maybe before COVID. It's kind of a updated version of Carpe Diem, seize the day. YOLO means you only live once. So what they're saying, and sadly this is a trend with Republicans, once they know they're out, and specifically if Trump ousted them, they will then become moderates to leaning Democrats. It kind of shows their true colors, that idea of the rhino, Republican in name only, or the kind of the swamp that Trump talked about, where they're it's always whatever's politically expedient, what's always best for them to keep their job. This time, Cassidy screwed that up and now is forced to retire. But now we have this voting bloc, if you will, of Senate GOP called the YOLO caucus, which you will not hear me call them that very often. They're outgoing Republicans who now feel freer, feel safe to speak more bluntly about Trump. Well, what does that say about them? What does that say about their courage and their morals? If for some reason they had a problem with Trump, why not bring it up before you're forced to retire, right? So are we being told by that they feel freer to go against Trump because they were somewhat cowardly in the past? I'm confused, because you've heard my argument before. I do not believe in any way, shape, or form that every Republican is cowering and terrified of Trump. I believe, unlike, I would say, people like Cassidy and others, not the case, but many of these people that, whether it's in Trump's cabinet or in Washington, they actually, heaven forbid, believe in the MAGA agenda, in Trump's agenda. So when they support it, if you don't like Trump, you must think that they're cowards to him, that they're just servants to whatever he wants. That's not the case. There are many people that believe in that agenda, just like there were many voters, obviously, that believed in that agenda. Cassidy went on, now Iran gets to build brand new infrastructure under the deal. Before the war, the strait was open. Iran was being crushed by sanctions, and 13 service members were still alive. Now 13 Americans are dead. Families have paid billions at the pump. Sanctions will be lifted, and the bombing has stopped. This is the worst foreign policy blunder in decades. Now, former 2024 GOP presidential hopeful, Nikki Haley, who originally backed Epic Fury, raised similar concerns to Cassidy, saying this regime chants death to America, murders our troops, and attempts to assassinate Americans on U.S. soil. They believe they have an obligation to destroy us. Now we plan to unlock billions of dollars and lift sanctions with the promise of even more money. They will use that money the way they always do, to further their nuclear ambitions and on terrorist proxies against us. It's a huge mistake to pay to rebuild the threat we just destroyed. Fellow alum of the first Trump administration, remember, these are all people that were never fully supportive. And I want to hear, trust me, you see the number on the bottom of the screen. I want to hear your thoughts on the Iran deal. I think we all have a lot of questions surrounding it. We will be talking about it quite a bit this morning, but it's not our only topic. And the only reason I kicked off the program with these quotes is because it tied into what Mark had to say. But Mike Pence said he feels like it's kind of an appeasement. Susan Collins and Mike Rounds both refrained from weighing in when asked by the New York Post, citing concerns they hadn't actually seen the actual text. That has been a common trend. One past GOP skeptic who appeared to warm up to the Memorandum of Understanding was Senator Lindsey Graham. He said after this discussion, he talked with Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, it is my opinion that signing the MOU will be beneficial to the United States, and as much as the Strait of Hormuz will begin to open and the hostilities with Iran will stop. Whether or not the United States can reach an acceptable, verifiable deal with Iran regarding its nuclear program and other issues is yet to be determined. But I see little downside to trying. You could make the argument that right now, the next 60 days are very important. That's when the quote-unquote real negotiations begin. Graham continued the economic stability that comes from opening up the strait and the cessation of hostilities could create a pathway to peace well beyond the Iranian conflict. So we'll go through some more quotes, but to your point, Mark, and to others that were made yesterday, yes, indeed, the media has article after article with headlines like humiliation, disaster. We will talk about that. But here we are, running just a tad bit late, and I want to kick off with what could be maybe a couple quick positive stories. Do I have time for it? Well, we have time for it. Yesterday, 2 days ago, State Senator Tom O'Mara and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano, both friends to Frankly Speaking, visited Corning Painted Post High School right down the road to pay tribute to Cilla McLaughlin. I hope I'm pronouncing her first name right. Cella, Cilla McLaughlin, for her 2026 victory in the 55-meter hurdles at the New York State Public High School Athletic Association Indoor Track and Field Championships. Now, let's put her picture up here on the screen, receiving her award. As the picture's up on the screen, I'll read what O'Mara and Palmisano had to say. The Corning Painted Post School District has a long and proud history of athletic excellence, competition, and achievement. We appreciate this opportunity to congratulate and pay tribute to Cilla McLaughlin as one of the school's most accomplished and highly decorated champions. It is an opportunity to recognize and honor her dedication, excellence, hard work, perseverance, and success. She is among the very best of our region's remarkable student athletes who help our school community stand out. They represent inspiring stories and are a source of enormous pride to the entire Corning Painted Post School District, as well as to their families and friends, the community at large, and our entire region. So that is Assemblyman Phil Palmisano to your left, and State Senator Tom O'Mara to the right. Superintendent of the Corning Painted Post School District, Michelle Caulfield, said Cilla embodies the very best of what we strive for in Hawk Nation, true sportsmanship. She consistently demonstrates support for her fellow athletes, and her attitude and character made her an outstanding representative of our high school and athletic program. We are incredibly proud of all she has accomplished and look forward to watching all that she will achieve in the future. Now that is head coach Ray Lawson on the camera, assistant coach Tom Ketchum, Cilla McLaughlin, of course, Senator Tom O'Mara, and Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. So there you go. I wanted to start with a little Positive news also in the sports world. The Knicks will make history as the first NBA team to visit Trump's White House. Now keep in mind, today is the parade in New York City. Knicks owner James Dolan, remember, President Trump visited Game 3 of the finals at Madison Square Garden. But Knicks owner James Dolan confirmed during an interview that the team will go to the White House to be praised by the President of the United States. Quote, "We did receive an invitation from the White House, which we accepted. We still have to figure out the details, etc. But yes, of course. Look, I invited the President to come to the game. He's a friend. I've known him for 30 years, and I'm very proud to bring the team to the White House." Rumors were floating online that Knicks had declined a formal visit, but a White House official told Vanity Fair earlier Wednesday that speculation was far from the truth, saying that is fake news. The White House congratulates the Knicks on their championship win and looks forward to discussing a visit in the near future. There you are. All right, we got to take a short break. If we have an opportunity in the sports world, we'll bring up a little bit later on. Josh Hawley is demanding answers from Major League Baseball on that pattern of discrimination over warning the Giants players about putting Bible verses on their hats. We talked about that quickly yesterday during the Pride game. Some players decided to put Bible verses on their hats, and of course, Major League Baseball attacked those players. Not attacked isn't the right word, but criticized those players, said that goes against their rules. I'm paraphrasing here, but J.D. Vance said, hey, to Major League Baseball, hey, Trump won. We don't have to do this anymore. But Hawley is demanding some answers. And Roger Clemens questions Major League Baseball's warning to the Giants pitchers, saying, we alter our uniforms all the time with numbers or somebody that's passed away. I know one time in Boston, Larry Bird retired. I put this hat on. They put 33 silver marker on the hat to honor Larry Bird. I did it for my mom and my grandmother. I love it that these guys show the blessings that the Lord has given them to be out on that field. That's the way it was for me. They do the special cleats when you can do your cleats how you want it. Maybe they do something like that and guys can have a hat with a Bible verse. They feel strongly about it. All right, so an update from yesterday's broadcast. I guess I got through those quickly. We got to take a short break. Stay with us. Just getting warmed up. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. We'll be right back after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Can, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Look at that. 2 of the trees are lit up for some reason. I don't see another one on there. Every once in a while they light them up, but not just 2 at a time. Interesting. I don't think there's anything to read into that, but welcome back to Frankly Speaking as we broadcast live from the Hesselson studio on Marcus Street in Corning. A comment from a viewer. Do Nothing Schumer says that the U.S. lost on every single point of the agreement. In other words, Iran won. Go figure. Well, of course, you're hearing the talking points. It gets even worse. Senator Mark Warner, Democrat from Virginia, he suggested that the U.S. is now in a weaker spot over this and that he's glad. Listen to this. I feel that it puts America in a weaker position than we were before the war started. He added the better move, quite honestly. I'm glad he's going to declare victory, meaning Trump declare victory. People will see through it. We'll end up probably in a worse position than we were with the JCPOA. I like how, I shouldn't just break in and do a tangent here because I want to continue with what he had to say. But isn't it interesting now the media and the Democrats are all saying that Obama's deal was a bad idea, a bad deal? Like in this case, worse position than Obama's deal. Remember, that was not the case when the deal came out. When that came out and when Trump got rid of it, you thought it was the gospel. As a matter of fact, Nancy Pelosi is still saying it was one of the best diplomatic jobs ever. It was a masterclass, I think she said, a masterpiece of diplomacy, Obama's nuclear agreement deal. Now I'm mixing quotes. Nancy Pelosi said Barack Obama's nuclear agreement with Iran was a masterpiece of diplomacy. But again, you have others that are now admitting, like Democrat Senator Mark Warner, that it was a bad deal when for how long did they tell us it was a great deal? At least Nancy Pelosi is sticking to her guns. But okay, we go back to what Senator Warner said. We'll end up probably in a worse position than we were with the JCPOA. And I never knew we were in a bad position if you watch the media cover or what Warner would say. But the alternative of continuing to shut down the Strait of Hormuz, the idea that we are going to bomb Iran into submission, the vulnerability because we have been using up most of our defensive missiles to shoot down the Iranian missiles, and we're kind of low of stockpiles, the idea that we are going to continue the war for another 50 or 100 days would be a worse disaster. The better deal would have been that the president wouldn't have started the war of choice without having a full plan, without going to Congress, or without going to the American people. The MOU reverses any effort that America might have to try to bring about reform in Iran. It literally says respect for sovereignty, which in human speak means we're not going to try to mess with you at all going forward. So the Iran Memorandum of Understanding puts us in a weaker spot, and we're glad. And he's glad, Mr. Warner, Senator Warner's glad we're doing it. Okay, before we dive in to more of this negative talk on Iran, I've got just a few things I want to mention to you, and this is kind of a trend that we've been doing on the program lately. But that poll that came out, we mentioned it quickly yesterday. As Americans prepare to celebrate its 250th birthday, we learned that in that Reuters poll, that when Americans were asked how they plan to celebrate Independence Day, would it include displaying the U.S. flag, attend patriotic events, know what the holiday represents to them? The poll found 64% of Republicans said they would display an American flag or flag bunting outside their home this July 4th. 64%. How many Democrats said that they would display an American flag or flag bunting outside their home? 27% of Democrats said that they would have an American flag out on the 250th birthday, if you will, of America, July 4th. Now, nearly two-thirds of Republicans, 65%, said July 4th is a day where I celebrate the United States of America. 65% of Republicans said that, while only 24% of Democrats said that July 4th is a day where they celebrate the United States of America. 24%. Democrats and independents were also more likely than Republicans to describe July 4th as just like any other day. Wow. Now, Republicans are considerably more likely, as you could guess probably at this point, to take part in traditional patriotic activities such as wearing red, white, and blue, 52% compared to 20% of Democrats, attend a fireworks show, 46% versus 28%, and attending a parade or festival, that's 20% Republicans, 9% Democrats. Wow. Parades and festivals not really popular in this. I think you get the idea. But that also ties in with a piece from Axios and a poll that was done that shows that American pride has fallen off a cliff. And why I bring this up is not to depress you, but this is a conversation we've been having since the very beginning of this program, a little over 3 years ago, which was how do we build the community? How do we build that patriotism? How do we make people believe in American exceptionalism again? Citizens are less proud, according to this poll, less religiously unified, and losing faith that the American dream still works. 51% of Americans say they are extremely or very proud of being American, just 51%, down sharply from 82% back in 2013. Less than half of Democrats believe that being born in America, 42%, believing in God, 41%, or being Christian, 29%, are important to national identity. Majorities of Republicans say being born in America, believing in God, and being Christian are important to being truly American. Americans are also split on the American dream, with less than half believing that hard work gets you ahead. Among 18 to 29-year-olds, keep that in the age mind in the back of your mind, belief in the American dream has fallen from 50% in 2024 to 36% today. All right. Your thoughts on that as we get ready, and we're going to be talking with Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski about America 250. Okay. Before we talk about Iran, we're going to take a break. And also, when we come back, I have a question for you just to get your opinion on. Then we're going to jump into Iran and the coverage. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio on Market Street in Corning. Okay, I wanted to ask you this one question, get your thought. We may ask Joe Sempolinski this as well. The New York State Board of Regents is planning, and now we know the Regents diploma is going away. It's been a major controversy, or there's talks of it going away. They're planning to let students earn a diploma through work outside the classroom, like apprenticeships. A local sheet metal company in Henrietta loves the idea. According to News 10, the Board of Regents plan would allow students to earn what is called a competency-based diploma through programs like apprenticeships or lab work, instead of relying on credits or class time. Requirements would depend on the student's ability to demonstrate what they had learned. The State Department of Education is still working on defining the exact requirements to earn a competency-based diploma. If the proposal passes, students starting high school in 2029 will be the first to align with the graduation requirements. So a little ways away here. The Education Department also plans to no longer require the students take the Regents exam to earn a diploma and draft a statewide universal transcript. So getting rid of the Regents diploma, you don't have to take a Regents test to get a Regents diploma. A lot of controversy over that, a lot of anger over that. Some have called it the dumbing down of the education system. But I like this idea of being able to earn a diploma through trade. Your thoughts on that? Okay. Comment from a viewer regarding pride in our country. The DEI and woke ideologies that the Democrats ram down the throats of our schools and colleges are responsible for the lack of pride. I think, and I didn't mean to tie those in with the education system, but I think there is especially when you look at the age demographic of those polls, yes, I think the education system for so long has taught younger people to not have pride in their country, to even laugh at American exceptionalism or the idea of American exceptionalism, to no longer believe in the American dream, to think that we're a bad country. And because of the egos of so many of these people protesting the street, they believe that the moment they were born, history began, right? So the most important time in the world is the moment they've been here. So if they're, in their mind, the most aggrieved and the most upset by some perceived slight, then that must be the worst feelings anybody's ever experienced ever in history. So that must mean they dislike Trump enough that this is the worst time in not only American history, but world history. It's a really convoluted mindset, and it's a troubling mindset, but the polls show that this kind of indoctrination and this propaganda has worked. Okay, so Trump personally signed a copy of the agreement aimed at ending the conflict between the U.S. and Iran during a dinner at the Palace of Versailles. Am I saying that right? Versailles. According to a report, it sounds right, from Barack Ravid, the global affairs correspondent for Axios and also a CNN analyst. According to two senior American officials, the United States and Iran signed a memorandum of understanding Wednesday evening intended to bring the war to a close. The officials said the signing took place remotely and that the memorandum is now in effect. We're not going to go through the 14 points, but now what is important to remember, the 14-point memorandum of understanding sets in motion 2 months of negotiations between Washington and Tehran on stopping Iran from obtaining nuclear weapons and shredding its stockpile of enriched uranium. But in return, and what is being deemed as one of the most controversial parts of it, if they agree, if this all works out, the U.S. could lift its crippling sanctions on the regime and give Iranians a shot at $300 billion to rebuild. Also at stake is whether the Strait of Hormuz is fully reopened and toll-free for passage. President Trump touted the benefits of the deal, which, as I said, he signed, and warned the U.S. could easily go back to the war if Iran doesn't shape up, saying, we're going to bomb the, we'll say, heck out of them if they violate the agreement. So it's kind of a condition-based deal. There's 5 passages specifically that people are concerned about, that they believe are maybe a little too open-ended, maybe a little too vague in the language. As one, well, it's the Iranian and Iran expert for Tel Aviv's University, Benny Sabdi, said, the Iran regime always tries to get more than what's written. The biggest potential stumbling blocks There's 4 of them. One is that the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran and their allies in the current war, by signing this MOU, declare the immediate and permanent termination of military operations on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and undertake from now on to not initiate any war or any military operation against each other, and to refrain from the threat or use of force against each other, and ensure the territorial integrity and sovereignty of Lebanon. The final deal will confirm the permanent termination of the war on all fronts, including in Lebanon, and other provisions of this paragraph. Now, the language about Lebanon has raised concerns in Israel, which is not party to this agreement, and has repeatedly carried out military operations. And this is a concern because Hezbollah will continue. These terrorist factions will continue to bomb Israel and attack Israel, and they're not agreeing to anything to not, in this case, if Lebanon attacks, they're going to attack back. And again, Israel is always held to a different standard for some reason when it comes to defending themselves, so I can understand why they're very concerned about this. At the end of the day, if Israel wants to defend itself or attack someone or something, it will do that. Sometimes, many times, Israel doesn't listen to the U.S. in these issues of security. Another line that's causing concern: the United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran undertake to respect each other's sovereignty and territorial integrity, and to refrain from interfering in each other's internal affairs. Now, that text makes no mention of protests against the regime after Islamic Republic thugs killed roughly 30,000 citizens, and that has been another sticking point for many. I'm just going through and being honest with what some of the criticism is. The next, the Islamic Republic of Iran will conduct dialogue with the Sultan of Oman to define the future administration and maritime services in the Strait of Hormuz. I'm going to kind of rush through these, but the mention of administration and maritime services leaves open the possibility that Iran and Oman could charge service fees to ship in that and access to the strait. Next up, I think this is the last one, right? Did I lose count? No, I did lose count. United States of America undertakes with regional partners to develop a definitive, mutually agreed upon plan with at least $300 billion for the reconstruction and economic development of the Islamic Republic of Iran. Now, this doesn't say where the $300 billion would originate, leaving unanswered whether the funding would come primarily from Gulf states, private investments, individuals, or international financial institutions. That is going to be a sticking point, and that's going to be one that, let's face it, the media is going to criticize Trump on because Trump was so critical of Obama and the pallets of cash. I understand it's different. I'm just saying that's in preparation. Be prepared. And finally, the other biggest kind of what they're saying is a red flag. The United States of America undertakes to make fully available for use the frozen or restricted funds and assets of the Islamic Republic of Iran upon the implementation of this memorandum of understanding. The United States of America and the Islamic Republic of Iran will mutually agree on the procedures related to the release of these funds during the negotiations. Now, that does not identify how much money, this is the open-endedness of again, would ultimately be released. While dollar figures range from $6 billion to $24 billion, the total could be much higher thanks to this vague point. So those are just kind of some of the criticisms that we'll see. We're going to tell you what some people say on the positive side of this, some people say on the negative side when we return. We've got some comments as well, so stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. Live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments. Mark writes in and said, I think it's a great idea to earn a diploma by trade. It gets them more ready for the workforce and a chance for them to see if they like the field. I agree with you. I think just the fact that you could be leaving high school with a job and a well-paying job as compared to leaving high school and going to perhaps a university, higher education, we'll put it that way, where you're instantly in debt and you walk away with that major. And what was the one protester's major? It was 19th century socialist poetry or something. And I know that sounds like I'm being outlandish, but I'm not that far off from what that major really was. Comment from a different viewer. I'd love to have a Democrat explain to me the difference between rebuilding Japan and rebuilding Iran. Thank you very much. And Ken writes in, I'm confused. If decimating your enemy's Army, Navy, and Air Force makes them stronger than they were, Who does every country work to build up those forces? Who does every country work to build up those forces? Shouldn't everyone work to eliminate their armed forces to try and be the strongest nation in the world? I see what you're saying. So basically, why would any country want to build up their forces? If it turns out strength is through weakness. A young child can see the Democrats and legacy media lie to us at every turn. Why can't the sheeple see this and demand that the party they revere stop lying to them? A foolproof way to determine if the Democrats and legacy media are lying to us is to watch their lips. If their lips are moving, they're lying. Thank you, Ken. We do appreciate that. Mark writes in, I saw a clip where Trump said he signed the deal because our inflation was skyrocketing, and also if Iran doesn't comply, he will bomb them on their heads. Yes, he did say something to that extent. It was basically he didn't want to be compared to Herbert Hoover, who was the president during the stock market crash. He said, I didn't want to see an economic collapse, Trump said. He also joked that he may pass responsibility of the deal to J.D. Vance. Now, some are presenting this as if it was factual or if he actually meant it, but it was obviously clearly a joke. Trump said, if it works out, I'm going to take the credit. If it doesn't work out, I'm blaming J.D. Now, Newt Gingrich, former House Speaker, and in full disclosure, a friend in a way to Frankly Speaking, had him on the program back in the radio days, really nice guy. Newt Gingrich praised President Trump's agreement with Iran, saying that the deal represents a major foreign policy achievement and a realistic alternative to either appeasing Tehran or committing U.S. troops to another large-scale Middle East conflict. He posted a piece on his own website, and he said negotiating with Iran, monitoring its commitments, and occasionally having to pressure the dictatorship militarily or economically is simple reality. Remember Ronald Reagan's advice to trust but verify, and Connie Mack's you get what you inspect, not what you expect. There will be no end to the requirement to police, monitor, and occasionally penalize the religious dictatorship. The leaders of the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps will try to push for as much influence and flexibility as they can get away with. It's simply their nature. A lot of people on the right and left have already criticized the upcoming agreement, even when they have never seen it. It's hard to understand what they thought the alternative should be. President Trump steered a course between the Barack Obama-Joe Biden appeasement model and a strategy which would have required a huge ground invasion. He used our technological strengths in air power and intelligence capabilities to bludgeon the religious dictatorship into positions far distant from where they were under Obama and Biden. President Trump has been managing a broad coalition which is committed to a more stable Middle East and is prepared to work together despite Iranian attacks. Now, Senator Cruz said that history teaches that giving billions of dollars to theocratic lunatics who want to murder us is not a good idea. I think the president is receiving some very poor advice on the deal. Now, in response, Don Jr., some have said, taught Senator Cruz a lesson. Trump responded to a post on X from Benjamin Domenech, an opinion editor for the Daily Wire, in which he shared a quote from Cruz stating that it's not remotely in America's interest for us to pay to rebuild Iran. In the response to Cruz's quote, Trump Jr. stated that the U.S. was not giving Iran a cent and added that using fake news to lie about the deal is the opposite of MAGA, saying, and I quote, this is Don Jr., the only problem with this quote is that Ted Cruz is lying through his teeth about the deal. We're not giving them a cent, and he knows that. Using fake news about the peace deal to undermine Donald Trump is the opposite of MAGA. So Cruz being critical of this, Don Jr. hitting back. Senator Eric Schmidt said yesterday that Donald Trump accomplished what experts previously believed not able to be achieved in the war against Iran. Quote, President Trump was very clear from the beginning about the mission here, which was to ensure that Iran would never have a nuclear weapon. They no longer have the ability to do that, and now they're signing on the dotted line for the first time that they won't pursue it. And we don't need to trust them, but we just need to verify it. The president effectively knocked out their military capability. Their navy's at the bottom of the sea. They have no air defense. Their nuclear program is in shambles and nowhere near being restarted. And if it's necessary, we can always go back and mow the lawn because we've got eyes on it. What the president has done is create space for diplomacy, which has always been his North Star. There's still more work to do, and we need to verify all of this, but he has accomplished something that most experts 6 months ago would have said was impossible. I think it's a good outcome for the American people. Even Lindsey Graham, Rand Paul, others rallied behind the idea. Lindsey Graham and Rand Paul pointed out that people attacking Trump's Iran deal are the architects of every failed intervention. It's a fair point. Graham saying, and I just had a very, we already mentioned that one, excuse me. Rand Paul wrote, I've spent my career warning against regime change or nation building and endless military entanglements. The same voices now attacking Trump's Iran deal are the architects of every failed intervention of my lifetime. This war must end. I stand with President Trump on peace. All right, we got to take a short break. We've got, obviously, it's not just people that are supportive of it. We'll talk a little bit about people that are opposed to it as well. But we got to take a quick break. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. As a reminder, in the 7 o'clock hour, we'll be talking with our good friend Joe Sempolinski. He's a former congressman. He's a current assemblyman, not the normal trajectory, but he's also the chairman of the Steuben County GOP. We're going to have, if you have any questions for him, as always, send them in. If you missed any of our previous interviews this week, like Emily from Casa Trinity or Chris Moss, who is running, obviously Chemung County Executive Chris Moss, running against Mark Margison in the primary on Tuesday. And his opponent, Mark Margison, was on last week, so you can find that on our website as well. So WYDCTV.com or on our YouTube page. All right, Senator Cory Booker has this kind of delusions of grandeur that he'll be president someday. He had his Spartacus moment, then he did the whole, it wasn't a filibuster though, but the longest speech or the longest time on the floor in the Senate, and then he wrote a book about that. Again, not accomplishing anything, which was kind of a microcosm of what Democrats were dealing with at the time and still ongoing. A lot of bluster, a lot of talk, nothing accomplished. Well, Cory Booker said that Trump's deal is horrific and it's unconditional surrender to Iran. Do you see the almost celebratory nature of what they think is a loss? Now, we still have a lot to unfold with this. The beginning really started yesterday with a 60-day negotiation. But this idea that there's glee in their voice, but it goes back to what that New York Times quote-unquote journalist said. They can't see a win. They don't want to see a win in Iran because it would be politically beneficial to Trump. So as so many people text in and predicted that everything and media coverage and political, whether it's Democrats or some moderate Republicans, it was going to be negative. Booker said, Donald Trump told us, I'm not going to read all this. You get the idea. He called it an unconditional surrender. Don't take my word for it. From the Wall Street Journal to conservatives, they're calling the Donald Trump, it's a retreat, his blunder, his surrender. This is a horrific deal and capitulation to Iran. I do think it's very hypocritical that so many now who praised the Obama deal are now saying, well, this is even worse than Obama's was. Well, you can't have it both ways. Now, I will say there is a lot of concern, and I understand that concern, about the tremendous amount of cash that Iran has the potential to receive. I think the optics of that are going to be very difficult for Trump to handle. But listen to some of these pieces. This is coming from Alex Griffin from Mediaite. Rubio's 2-day absence, Secretary's media silence is a flashing red sign about Trump's Iran deal. And people have said, why is Vance the spokesperson? Why has Rubio been so quiet? Rubio's calculation here appears clear. He's sitting back and waiting for the deal to either blow up or go into effect and be annihilated by the conservative pundit class. Okay. We're going to continue with what the media had to say. Trump's Iran nuclear deal risks falling short of Obama version. Again, we didn't know. This whole time that Obama's deal was bad. You would think the media, this is Bloomberg, I believe, but the media that had covered it and said it was a success, saying Trump should never got rid of it. Are you kidding me? This was the best thing that ever happened. Now saying it was a very bad deal. Humiliation. Donald Trump's battles claims his Iran deal is worse than Obama's. Again, little did we know that Obama's deal wasn't the best deal perhaps ever created in mankind history, because the way the media covered it, up until they could use it as a weapon against Trump, Obama's deal was great. And how dare Trump get away from it? It was going to be a disaster get away from it. At the time, we were told it was great. Remember, behind the scenes, we were told that John Kerry was being screamed at so loudly by the Iranian negotiators that Secret Service came in for fear of his life. But again, at the time, we were told it was great, and now we were continuing to be told it was great until they could use it as a weapon against Trump. So humiliation, Donald Trump battles claims his Iran deal is worse than Trump's. Continuing, Trump in defeat. President Trump lost, said Jonathan Lemire. The war he waged against Iran promises to conclude in a humbling whimper with a signal of a ceasefire agreement later this week. The United States is left weaker, diminished militarily, strategically, economically, and perhaps even morally. Trump back home, Trump is still the most powerful figure in politics, but those small acts of Republican defiance are adding up. He has had a series of losses in the courts, including in his efforts to remake the nation's capital in his own image. Democrats are favored to capture at least one House of Congress this November, which would give them the ability to slow Trump's agenda. You know who else given the ability to slow Trump's agenda? Apparently Republicans. Because I know that, well, let's go on that. No, we don't have time to go on that tangent. Anyway, you get this idea. He went out with a whimper. But that's their argument. But yes, this idea that Republicans aren't accomplishing his agenda now when they have the House and the Senate is going to be a very troubling sign for November, in my opinion. Because a lot of people have said, why did we trust you with our vote if we're not going to be able to accomplish anything? That means Republicans in the House and the Senate. So does that create that voter apathy, not going in to the booth in November? Real concern. We got to take a break, though, and then we're going to wrap up hour number one. Stay with us. Brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Don't forget, in just moments, we're going to be hearing from Assemblyman Joe Sempolinski. So if you have any questions, whether it's New York issues, federal issues, or just local race issues with the race for the primary race, I should say. If you have any issues there that you have questions about, contact us at the bottom of the screen, that number on the bottom of the screen. Yes, they're using some of these quote-unquote conservatives or anybody on the right that criticize Trump to try to create that wedge. MAGA hawk mutiny deepens Trump's isolation on Iran. Let's see some of the names. From Tucker Carlson to Marjorie Taylor Greene. They've suggested Trump has abandoned American first policy. Wow, that's a huge gap. From Tucker Carlson all the way to Marjorie Taylor Greene, two people that have found it financially beneficial to criticize the president and the MAGA movement. No kidding. Huh. I don't want to go through each of these people, but Trump, they're saying this, that Trump could or should change his opinion on this. William Chamberlain, senior counsel at the Article 3 Project, said the deal is absolutely terrible. There's no getting around it. The text gives Iranians huge immediate financial benefits and protection of Hezbollah in exchange for opening the strait and nothing else. President Trump should renege. Conservative talk show host Mark Levin praised Trump's decision to use military force against Iran, but sharply criticized the proposed MOU. From day one, I have underscored that no deal will be honored by the Iranian regime. Why would we agree to immediately drop the most important leverage we have over the regime in advance of complying with MOU? You get the idea. They are saying that the secrecy originally of the deal and then Vance's dodging of it has made it worse. That's according to David Hersani. Why didn't they share the full language from the beginning? Well, the first reason is obvious, he writes. The memorandum of understanding is a capitulation to the clerics of the regime. The second reason is also a scandal. J.D. Vance said, I don't frankly fully understand, but there are sensitivities that exist in the Arab and Muslim world that we're trying to be responsive to. But the vice president who helped negotiate the framework added that the Iranians, Pakistanis, and Qatars asked us to sequence it. This isn't the right way. It's a disgrace that the administration was taking direction from the radical clerics of Iran and the Pakistani military dictatorship. So you do have a lot of people turning on this. Stephen Collinson from CNN argues that Trump got the that the Iranian agreement may be a dud, he writes, but he's getting what he wants. Okay. And they quote Trump as saying, "I didn't want to see an economic catastrophe. If you keep going, that would have happened." Okay. Anyway, so he gets what he wants. That's probably enough. What is MOU? Memorandum of Understanding. Yes. So you'll hear that a lot. I don't think anybody's saying it any other way but MOU, are they? Is there MOU? Moo? Yes. MOU. You'll hear it a lot in the upcoming days, but MOU stands for Memorandum of Understanding. Yesterday at the G7 Summit, we'll have to wait and see what happened at the G7 Summit. We've got a couple things we got to get through quickly before Joe Sempolinski gets here. Stay with us. We'll be right back with hour number 2 after this. And we welcome you to hour number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio as we prepare for former Congressman, current Assemblyman, current chair of the Steuben County GOP Committee, Joe Sempolinski. We prepare for his visits. Okay, let's go to some viewer comments. Regarding Cory Booker, anyone who could babble for 24 hours straight is a nut. It was 25 hours and 5 minutes, and he wrote a book about it called Stand, where I believe it was his wife or girlfriend, I can't remember if he got married, said that she feared for his life because he was standing and speaking for 25 hours and 5 minutes. Watched as she was scared for his safety and actually for his life. All right, comment from a different viewer. Reminder for Joe, freedom for upstate New York, the 51st state. Thank you very much. Ken writes in, I listened to the talking heads and some Republicans chastising Trump for allowing others to help rebuild Iran and for letting them restart selling their oil. They must have forgotten what America's ideals have been since the beginning of this nation. We go to war to protect our nation, our citizens, and other countries that can't protect themselves. After we have helped defeat an enemy, we have always worked to help them restart their economy and mounted an effort to help them rebuild. Not to help an enemy government get back to their nefarious ways, but to help their people that were suffering from the war. Why is it unusual in this instance that we let Iran restart their only major source of income, selling their oil and letting others help rebuild the country? Granted, not all the proceeds from the oil sales or rebuilding help will go to the people, but it will help. One has to remember the bulk of the citizens of Iran aren't bad people. They do and say what they need to so the government doesn't eliminate them. Thank you, Ken. Well, we got to take a break. I know you're saying we just got started in hour number 2, but we want to get Joe Sempolinski in here. So stay with us. We'll be right back after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, former Congressman, current Assemblyman, current chair of the Steuben County GOP, Joe Sempolinski. Joe, thanks for coming
Frank,
back.
good morning. Happy to be in the Crystal City.
What'd you think of the UFC fights?
Well, I think it's a neat thing.
I do too.
You know, why are we not celebrating the 250th? We got the World Cup, we got the UFC fights. And so I think celebrating
the Knicks won a championship.
The Knicks won the championship, which I'll say this: I'm an upstate New York guy. Mm-hmm. You know, I'm a Bills fan. I'm a Sabres fan. The one downstate team that ever since I was a little kid that I had a soft spot for is the Knicks. Yeah. And there's currently no upstate NBA team. Right. Boston lost their team a long time ago. So there's no competing team up here, and the Knicks were sort of this lovable underdog in a way that a lot of like the Yankees are not, right. Per se, right? And so to see them break their drought, which is not the longest drought in NBA history, but it's the longest one that's ever been broken.
There you go.
There's some other teams that have not won, and it's still going on. But I was very happy for the Knicks, and I'll say I got into the NBA playoffs in a way that I haven't since the Jordan era.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are the same way. So it's probably
I'm a
good
bandwagon
for the sport.
fan.
Yeah, I got into it. I was watching it, so I'm very happy. And the parade is today.
Yeah.
And apparently people were lining up at like 4 a.m.
They said that there's people that would hire out their services for up to $950 to stand in line for you, like stand in your spot. So if you didn't want to, you wanted to wait and go later, you can say, here's your $950, thank you.
Manhattan's going to be exciting, but
yeah.
Today in Manhattan is 1/10 or 100th of what will happen when the Bills win the Super Bowl and the city of Buffalo falls into the lake.
This one off the rails. I just asked you about UFC, Joe.
That's right. Hey, I like sports.
I know.
Yeah. So I think it was a neat thing. I think it was a neat thing that they put on.
The optics are amazing with the flyover. Listen, I know the Democrats hate everything that Trump does, but you didn't have a little bit of goosebumps when the flyover happened and you got Zach Brown singing the national anthem?
Listen, we are the first large-scale experiment in representative democracy. We've been doing it for a quarter millennium. We should have some fun with it. We should be excited about it. It's a positive thing. And if you can't get into the 250th and all the things that are around it, I feel bad for you. And this was a cool way to celebrate Flag Day.
I think so too. It happened to be Trump's birthday.
Hey,
I like how you missed that part.
It's Flag Day. It's Trump's birthday. It's both of them. Happy birthday to the president. Mm-hmm. Happy Flag Day. Yeah. Happy UFC fight day. Yeah. I'm feeling good.
I am too.
We're gonna win the World Cup. I think.
I think so. Yeah. All of it feels good. So last time we talked, you were zooming in live from Albany.
I was, yeah.
And that was, I think, on a Tuesday. End of session was about Thursday, Friday kind of thing.
Yeah.
So what do you see now reflecting back at it? What do you think? End of session.
So the last 2 weeks of session just psychologically felt like about 3 months.
Okay.
And some of that is just you are stuck in this one room and it's like sort of this sensory deprivation sort of experiment. Mm-hmm. And you're voting on, I think we did like 600 bills in those last 2 months. Wow. It's crazy. So that is sort of a mental strain. Mm-hmm. But it's also felt like 3 months because we were doing about 4 months of work.
Right.
The budget should have been done in March. It wasn't. I voted against every budget bill myself. And one, concerned with the process. Two, concerned with overall levels of spending. And three, concerned with some of the policy that was tucked in. And then we finished that, and immediately we got to go into the last week of session and do what should be, 2.5 to 3 months of work in 1 week. Mm-hmm. And there's an upside to that because there was really no appetite to extend session. That's the logical thing I'm sure people are thinking, well, why don't you just stay in session and do more? Because a lot of the Democratic members from New York City are really only concerned about the June election, not the November election, because their district's overwhelmingly Democratic, and there's a lot of Democratic primaries. In some cases, DSA members trying to take out other Democrats. So I got people that I really don't agree with, but the alternative is much worse, which will be interesting. So
bad place to be.
There's no appetite within the Democratic Party to extend session. Now, the good side of that, as I said, there is a silver lining, is there's a lot of things that then don't pass because they just run out of time. And by having a firm, hard deadline to end session, the Senate stayed right on schedule. Assembly only extended 1 day. That maximizes the power of the minority party because we control how fast the chamber goes. We're the ones that control how long we debate things, whether we debate things, whether something gets an immediate vote. So there's certainly a lot of stuff that didn't pass because of the logjam at the end of session, which is a good thing. However, what it seems like the priority was of the Democrat Party that last week were things that I thought were really disturbing, especially surrounding our elections. And I debated all four of these bills. Two of them are actual statutes, and two are the first stage of a constitutional amendment, which is a multi-stage process. For those who don't know, to amend the state constitution, you have to pass something twice, before an election, after election, and then it has to go to a referendum. So it's a longer process than just passing a bill. But we passed out of the legislature, and again, I voted no on all of this stuff, a bill to change who writes referendum on the ballots, because the last stage of constitutional amendment is a referendum. It was a bipartisan process from the Board of Elections. They want to make that the legislature describes And you saw in Virginia where the referendum said, like, to restore fairness, vote yes for their map, whatever. You're going to see that going forward. They passed a law to change judicial districts in the 4th Judicial Department, judicial districts that have been in place since 1847. And that will net probably a couple dozen Democrat judges at the state Supreme Court level. And then 2 constitutional amendments we did the first passage of. One would move sort of all remaining offices that were not in even years to even years, which sort of really politicizes county and city races. They excluded New York City everywhere except New York City. So Corning would now move their city offices, Horning would now, Elmira, and the remaining county offices. And the way they'll handle vacancies, because you may remember we moved a lot of town and county offices by statute, the ones that we can move by statute. When people came up, they just ran for a term that was 1 year shorter. So you had a lot of people run for 1 year terms last year. They're not going to do it that way. They're just going to say when the term expires, it's a vacancy. And then the election is a year later. So in the case of something at the local level, that might be filled by a city council or something for a year. Mayor gets filled by city council or whatever their charter says. Who fills countywide positions that are vacant? The governor. So you may have a ton of upstate vacancies for DA, county clerk, sheriff, if they come up in an odd-numbered year, where the governor gets to boot whoever's in there, put who she wants in for a year if this passes. So that's really horrific. Aggressive. Supreme Court judges, same thing. And then, most notably, we passed, again, I voted no on all this, a constitutional amendment that would strip all the anti-gerrymandering language out of the state constitution, allow partisan gerrymandering of state legislature, not just Congress, state legislature, and partisan gerrymandering of Congress as often as they want for Congress. Every 2 years, they can draw a new map. If, say, a Democrat gerrymander doesn't take out enough Republicans, they can draw a new map the next time and the next time and the next time. Those last 2, the people will ultimately get a vote on in either 27, almost certainly for the gerrymandering, 27 or 28.
But the problem with that is, don't they get to control the language of how that's going to be written?
Yes.
Then we just learned, so they can. It can be one of those things where you're voting no, you don't like it, and it turns out you're essentially voting yes.
Well, they can't flip it, but they can write it. Says if you want to save democracy,
support America,
you got to do X. So they could be aggressive with it. It'll be whatever the legislature wants.
I don't see them being fair with it.
No, I don't either. Okay. I mean, just by definition, for something to get on the ballot, it has to pass the legislature. Therefore, the legislature is always in favor, at least the majority is, of all referendum. Otherwise, it wouldn't be on the ballot. And what really bothered me, what drove me straight up the wall, and so many media have forgotten and everything, is this was presented in the popular consciousness as if, we have the Democrats have to stop Donald Trump. They're mad about Texas. They're mad about Florida. Which state did a mid-cycle redistricting first? Before Texas, before Florida. Here. The New York State did a mid-cycle redistricting last election, and everybody seems to have forgotten it. We held a press conference with Congressman Lawler.
I saw that.
And Mark Molinaro was in the back of the room. One of the congressmen who lost his seat in the last redistricting last election. And the press, even some senior members of the Albany press corps, was like, well, the Democrats haven't done a mid-cycle redistricting. Yes, they did. One of the dudes that lost his seat's in the back of the room. It's so there's like this memory hole where the Democrats have forgotten that everything that they are supposedly mad about the Republicans doing in other states, they already did or attempted to do multiple times in the last 5 years. Everything. So they have no ground to stand on. If you're looking for who started the redistricting war, don't look at the White House. Don't look at Austin, Texas. Don't look at
even California.
Florida. Don't even look there. You look at Albany, New York, and they've been trying to do this for the last 5 years while Joe Biden was president, not while Donald Trump was president. So they are the arsonists, and they're screaming for the fire brigade.
Exactly. And the problem is, like you said, it's not getting fair coverage. And I'm just really concerned when we go to vote for it, because it really, at the end of the day, we voted for, or I should say against gerrymandering, and now they're just ignoring it. So is it going to be a lack of energy to go out and say why? They're just going to change again if they don't like the vote.
The anti-gerrymandering language is not ancient in the Constitution. It was put in place in 2014. The people, I think, made the right decision. And the Democrats attempted to pass an amendment in 2021 to water down the independence of the Redistricting Commission, make it more partisan. The people rejected that. So again, they've been trying to do this for 5 years. Again, long before Donald Trump returned to the White House. And now they're going to have another pass. So I hope at the end of the day, the people who will have the final say on this, presumably in November of 27, will make the right decision, just like they made the right decision in 2014 and just like they made the right decision in 21.
People don't like gerrymandering.
No, and they shouldn't.
No. We better take a break. Stay with us. Keep your comments, keep your questions coming in. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. And I forgot this, Joe. Someone wrote you an intro. Joe Sempolinski in the exclusive special Hesselson's Hot Tub edition of Frankly Speaking.
The Hesselson Hot Tub. Can you handle the heat in the hot tub? That's the question if you're going to come on
Every
Frankly
guest,
Speaking.
every guest.
I don't know
answer.
if you, some can, some can't.
Some can't, that's for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we got a comment. Oh, by the way, I forgot to give you. Look, we got stickers.
Frankly Speaking,
Stickers, our buddy Chris Severson sent me a ton of them. This is a small bag of them, so don't let me forget. I gave Phil a couple. He says he's going to wear them in parades. I don't know. I'll believe it when I see it. No, he would actually.
That's a new candidate that's running. Frankly Speaking.
Exactly. They're going to get all confused. So there's yours. Equal amount for you and Phil.
Oh, my goodness. Look at this. That's exciting.
Give them to your kids so they can put them on their
That's
trapper
cool.
keepers, things like that. Are they nice?
Yeah.
All right. So question from a viewer. Did Bruce get the money yet, or are the deceptive Democrats still fighting against giving it to him? I haven't heard an update.
He won his appeal.
Yeah.
So there's a 3-level, you have the trial judge, appellate division, and then potentially the Court of Appeals. But the appellate division was a unanimous victory for Blakeman, which was shockingly positive. So it looks like he's going to be okay. He's going to be able to get the matching funds. So if somebody, the way that is important is if some regular person likes Mr. Blakeman, wants to give him $5, that $5 gets multiplied 6 times. You want to give him $100, well, then he's going to get $600. Right. Small to medium donations get multiplied by 6 for him with matching funds, which makes him dramatically more competitive with the governor. Now, is that a program that I would have constructed the way it's constructed?
No.
No.
We do this disclaimer every time. No, we do not agree with it, but that's the way the game is played.
Listen, the way I play is I'm going to play as hard and as fair and as aggressive as possible within the rules.
Exactly.
And if those are the rules that the Democratic Party wants to set, well, it should be the rules for everybody. And if I was the Speaker of the Assembly or the Governor of New York, I certainly would write different rules than what we have. But the rules are the rules, and they should be adjudicated fairly. And Mr. Blakeman had complied to the best of his ability to comply, and the judges made the correct decision at the trial and appellate divisions. Now, Mr. Blakeman's been out and about aggressively. He was just in Buffalo a couple days ago, opening up his Buffalo campaign office. A couple days prior to that, I spent most of last Friday with Mr. Blakeman in Olean and in Little Valley in my assembly district in Cattaraugus County. And he had a meet and greet with local business people, elected officials, met with the DA and the sheriff as well, and we did a press conference on energy issues, him talking about the need to have responsible natural gas exploration, which we desperately need in the southern tier, and we would certainly have for the first time a governor that is willing to open up that economic boon for the southern tier, and he went to the Cattaraugus County Republicans summer fundraiser, which was scheduled for that night. So we had a wonderful day with Mr. Blakeman, Sheriff Hood, our Lieutenant Governor nominee, and Mr. Hernandez, who has been Mr. Hernandez is our Controller nominee. That's the 3rd time he's been in my assembly district, and
he was on the show.
And I happened to be last night. I was at a Republican Assembly fundraiser in New York City, and Mr. Hernandez was there. So I ran into him.
That's his backyard.
Yeah, right. That's what he said. I came to you this time. Is what I told Mr. Hernandez. So
Saritha is also. I know she's been making rounds. She was on the program. She was in Watkins not that long ago. Our schedules didn't match up, so we had to do a Zoom. She's going to be a special candidate. I think she does a good job.
We have a really impressive statewide slate of candidates ticket, and I'm very excited to vote for all of them. And how many views did Blakeman get sitting in this chair?
In that 5 million? Over 5 million views on Frankly Speaking.
6,
think of that.
Frank.
And we'll try.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
Well, he shared it, and I know it's anecdotal. Don't get me wrong. But I didn't know before that if 5 million people were paying attention to this race.
I'm glad. I'm glad. I hope 20 million are
I
paying
know.
attention.
I haven't checked the numbers lately.
Yeah,
We'll see.
but he's been running an aggressive campaign, and I've got to spend now time with Bruce here in this room.
Yep.
In Corning, in Olean, multiple times in Albany when he's been up when we're in session, and I can honestly really relay that enthusiasm for the candidacy is growing as he is out campaigning. He's winning votes. He's winning over people. He's getting the base enthused and aware of his candidacy. He's winning over common sense Democrats, and I think this is leading toward hopefully what we desperately need is Governor Blakeman. And as I said during our press conference with him and Olean, it would be so wonderful for the Southern Tier, for my district, if we had a situation where I could pick up the phone, call the governor, call the lieutenant governor, and they'd be like, "How do we help?" As opposed to, which is sort of the current situation.
And I will say, I know we've heard in the past on this program some criticism of Blakeman just because people haven't had the opportunity. It's not that he hasn't been around, but hasn't had the opportunity to hear from him or see. And I would say, and I've said this to numerous people, find either, you don't have to find the interview with me. I'm not going to do like that, but find an interview.
5 million and one people.
Yeah. But find some of his clips, see if you can find an interview, because once they hear him, they're going to love his positions.
Yeah, he's a good candidate. So, when people get a chance to see him in person, there's been a really positive response. So, again, I've been with him on the campaign trail throughout the Southern Tier, throughout the Finger Lakes, and he's the type of candidate that when he's out and about, he's winning votes. Right, because he's a good candidate. He's got a good story to tell. He's got a good platform, and again, the rest of the ticket is very strong as well.
It's a great ticket, and I haven't interviewed Hood yet, and that's only he was right here.
He was here.
He was here, and I didn't know. And
he's a really nice guy. So he's the sheriff of Madison County, which is up between Syracuse and Utica, and prior to that, he was a Syracuse cop. So he's somebody who is a law enforcement guy. He's an upstate guy. He's a really down-to-earth family man, religious guy. Just really, I really like him. Yeah. He's just a likable guy who I think is going to be a great addition to when he is lieutenant governor. To if I pick up the phone and say, Sheriff Allard or Sheriff Cicerello or Sheriff Butler, were the three sheriffs in my district. We got a situation, especially if it's law enforcement or criminal justice. Perfect. He's going to get it.
Yeah, he won me over when he said he liked my interview.
Yeah, that's right. And he's also he's just a really
nice guy. I know.
But he's a really nice guy.
But when he was walking out the door, and he's like, "That was great." I'm like, "Thanks." Yeah. I don't even get to vote for you, but you got my vote. I'm voting for Blakeman. That's how it works. All right, we got a lot of other comments and questions and things to bring up. But why don't we take a short break? On that note, we'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's hot tub, as Joe says, and in the hot tub, we have Joe Sempolinski. All right, couple comments. Ken writes in, the Democrats haven't forgotten anything, and this is in reference to gerrymandering. They're just holding true to the party philosophy. Never admit anything, project every nefarious thing they do onto the other side.
Oh, I think you're right. Yeah. I think Ken's right as far as the elected officials. They're not stupid. They remember things.
Of course.
What I've been very frustrated with is certain elements of the mainstream media that buy into that narrative and don't push back and say, wait a minute, you had a gerrymandered map thrown out in 22. You tried to gut the IRC in 21. You did a mid-cycle redistricting in 24 that led to multiple pickups for the Democratic Party in the House. All of the stuff they're mad about, all of it, they've already tried to do, and they tried to do it before Republican states did it. So, I don't think that they've suddenly caught amnesia. I think they're nefarious.
Yeah. A couple comments here. Frank and Joe have a beautiful day with an emoji with a guy in a cowboy hat.
Hey, I like that's it. Nice. It is a beautiful day.
Beautiful. It's
Crystal City in the summer. Where else would you rather be?
And then the next comment. Good morning, Frank. Tell Joe. Okay, Joe, you paying attention?
Yes.
I am very thankful for him with the prayer emoji and a heart.
Oh, that's very nice.
Aren't those nice?
Very thoughtful, yeah.
All right.
Right back at you, yeah.
Now, what do you think is the bigger story? The Iran deal or algae in the reflecting pool? Be honest with me.
Well, obviously the Iran deal.
But media coverage-wise.
What I found interesting is, like, for instance, Gavin Newsom posting pictures of either the ballroom or the reflecting pool in mid-construction, and they're like, "Oh, this looks horrible" or whatever. And I saw some commentary on social media. It's like, he doesn't understand that you can finish public works projects.
Yeah, well, that's a great point.
because in California, you don't start a project, go through the process and finish it. You just spend billions of dollars to build no high-speed rail.
It's pretty sad when Bill Maher's telling him, like, how did he even put it? Just drop the rail, brother.
Right.
Like that.
Yeah.
Like,
just do it.
Yeah. Just,
right.
You got to stop.
I mean, it's the reflecting pool. And what I love about what the president did is, if it was a Democrat one, you would have gone through 20 years of environmental review.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And we got to go through all these designs, and it could be some sort of political issue.
Cost
With
Obama
is this something offensive that they're worried about or whatever? Just like, he called some pool dudes.
Yeah.
To fix a pool.
Yeah.
And it's done.
Yeah.
And as far as by the way, I think I've said it before in the program, the ballroom.
Yeah.
I have been at major events at the White House. It desperately needs a large event space, because the White House just isn't physically that large. I know it sort of looms large in people's popular consciousness, and it's a beautiful building and what have you, but this isn't making changes to the executive mansion. It was a renovation effectively of the East Wing, which was the First Lady's offices. It's not even where the president's offices are. It is putting in place within the security perimeter a large event space that the country and the executive branch desperately needed, and it's going to be a lot safer. We saw what happens when you have large events at the Hilton or wherever.
And
it
look
was.
what almost happened even at the White House outside. They foiled that at the UFC.
So this is the ballroom is a fantastic idea. Fixing the reflecting pool is a fantastic idea. And unlike Gavin Newsom, Donald Trump can actually finish a project.
Do you think the litmus test for 2028 Democrats will be if they'll tear down the ballroom or not?
I think it'll come up.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be
every debate, right?
It's going to be one of these ones like, yes or no, raise your hand, and they're all going to be looking at each other like, listen. What they'll do is they'll realize it's a good idea, and they'll make some superficial change or something, because it's a really, really good idea that is going to be an improvement for how we handle state dinners or large events at the White House, and it'll be safer, it'll be better. The Democrats can rant and rave about it all they want, but it's an infrastructure improvement to that complex.
Comment from a viewer: my polling place has changed from Elmira to Southport. Was there any gerrymandering in Elmira? And that's not that. I think, wasn't there a big recently where they were cutting back on a lot of the polling places?
Yeah. So what they've done is they've allowed election districts to be a little bigger, and the idea is then if you have bigger election districts, you need fewer polling places, right? So. For instance, in Corning, used to be many polling places, and now it's one. That's more of a consolidation of polling places than election districts, because those are city council wards, so it's a little different in the city. But if you go out into the towns, you might have a town that used to have, like for instance, my town used to have 4 election districts, and I think it's got 3 now, or what have you. So that is a statutory change that allowed there to just be larger election districts. That might lead to it. Now, this may also just be somebody at the Chemung County Board of Elections just decided that a location was a better or safer or more accessible or location, and sometimes places where you're doing it, they can't do it anymore for a variety of reasons. So it could be just a local decision on what is best for the electorate. It could also be because election districts have shifted. Election districts don't tend to really be gerrymandered because there's no incentive to, because you don't really elect legislators by election district. You elect them by legislative district or assembly district or senate district. The election district tends to be just a mechanism by where the machine is, and then you count the votes.
Ken writes in, Frank, we lost cable and internet and horse heads. So now's your chance to say everything about horse heads you've been wanting to say. They can't tune in.
They can't listen?
Yeah, don't say it.
Well, no. There's a broadcast station. They can,
over the air, I know.
Yeah, they're not losing Big Fox if they lose cable.
Absolutely not. We're watching right there down there, because that's why I double-checked. Yeah. Okay, you had mentioned, and we have a moment before we have to take a break, you had mentioned Gavin Newsom, obviously considered a front-runner, well, in his own mind, in 2028. And the Democrat ticket, right?
What was the president's nickname? Gavin Newscum?
Yeah, Newscum, right? What do you think about the DOJ probe? He's trying to make political hay out of this and saying that it's an attack on Trump.
My understanding is it started under Biden.
Yeah.
Right. And he forgot to mention that.
And there's a lot of money.
Yes. It was his wife playing games with her role as the first lady of California.
And by the way, we got to figure out how, I think theirs was the same thing here. We've got to find our own production company where we can then buy. It's always like a production company. You ever notice? It's like, oh, our campaign, here, we're going to spend a lot of money on this production company that we also own.
Yeah. I mean, Newsom, first of all, he looks like an extra from American Psycho.
He does.
But this guy is such a failure. Now we're asking questions about whether he might be corrupt, and we'll see where the investigation goes. But yeah, he's trying to portray this as if the DOJ is coming after him because it's Trump or whatever. It started before, and again. What did they do to Trump?
Yeah.
Under Biden. That's a whole separate thing. Yeah. But this guy has no accomplishments.
No.
This guy has been a disaster as governor of California. In any sane political party, he would have zero chance. He would be, an outcast as like, oh my goodness, what an embarrassment this guy is. But you put a little gel in your hair, you slick it back, and you say the right buzzwords, and suddenly you're front runner for president of the United States.
And you try to, and it never works for me. But you try to act like Trump in his tax, and he thinks that's really.
Oh funny. Yeah, I see him on social media where he's like, oh, he's trying to be snarky or whatever.
Doesn't work.
I'll say this way: Gavin Newsom is never going to be president of the United States. I can say that definitively. Can't say he may not be the Democratic nominee.
That's a big difference, too.
That might happen because of how messed up the Democratic Party is. Yeah. But Gavin Newsom is a disaster as governor of California. Can't accomplish anything. Doesn't even understand what accomplishing something is. That guy should be nowhere near Washington, D.C. Should be nowhere near the levers of power. Shouldn't be near Sacramento in the levers of power, but he is. And I am very confident Gavin Newsom will never be president of the United States.
What clips I've seen from his podcast and things like that, he doesn't even have a great smooth delivery. He doesn't have that charisma. They want you to think he has charisma.
He oozes fake.
Yeah.
Like he is constructed and fake and unaccomplished, and I'm not a fan of Gavin Newsom. If you can't figure that out, right?
We touched a nerve there.
I just don't like that guy.
Well, it doesn't sound like that's an endorsement of Gavin Newsom. Also,
whatever the opposite of an endorsement is what I just gave to the guy.
Another person that wouldn't endorse, and this is interesting, Graham Plattner, Hillary Clinton. Didn't fully endorse Mr. Planter, but did say he's had some bumps on the road.
Bumps in the road. Yeah.
No, she didn't even say bumps on the road.
He's got bumps. The guy's a big bump. I believe President Trump referred to him as a thug, and I agree with the president. That may even be charitable. This guy is a disaster. And remember who he's running against. Yeah. He's running against, by far, the most moderate federal elected official in the Republican Party. Somebody, and I think the president sort of phrased it this way too, somebody that I don't always really agree with. I think I'm dramatically more conservative than Susan Collins is. And there's certainly votes that she's taken that I wouldn't have taken.
On a pretty regular basis, actually, yeah.
But so if you're saying as a Democrat that somehow you have to support this dude with a Nazi tattoo because you have to stop Susan Collins, how morally bankrupt is the Democratic Party?
Wasn't Sonny Hostin from The Viewer? Who was it that said that? And I don't think it was her. That basically her votes with Trump is worse than him having a Nazi tattoo,
which is insane.
Because she very rarely votes with Trump. Yeah. But you know what they do?
There's been a lot of major votes where she's voted with Trump. There's been a lot of major votes where she's voted against Trump.
But you know how they do that, where they'll say 96% in support of Trump. But that's okay. They named a post office after someone. Right. And it's like
most votes in the state legislature, most votes in the federal legislature are unanimous or nearly unanimous because you're doing sort of mundane matters. There's been a lot of major votes where she has voted different than what the president wanted her to. So if you're gonna be mad at Republicans and you're on the left, she's literally the one you should be the least mad at.
Yeah.
And again, imagine if a Republican had a Nazi tattoo. for years.
They tried to go after Hegseth. It wasn't.
Right.
Remember, they tried to suggest there was something there was something nefarious about his tattoo.
So they go after justices of the Supreme Court's wife because they fly a patriotic flag.
Yeah.
If the Democrats didn't have double standards, they'd have no standards at all.
Yeah, right.
And they are morally bankrupt. They're a political cartel, not a political party. Mm-hmm. And if you support Mr. Plattner, just know you're supporting somebody that's effectively a Nazi.
Yeah, and in his personal life, my goodness. Yeah, and for a party that throws around Nazis so much,
right?
Everything Trump does not to just say, let's forget it this time.
Yeah. Just all of a sudden,
your argument, the best argument they have is he didn't know. Does that make him
apparently he's a military history buff?
Yeah,
so that's iffy.
I think that was. I think that was a lie from the beginning.
And you got his ex-girlfriend saying that. He absolutely
because he said it reminded him that Americans were the bad guy. Okay, enough
on
him. I know it's Maine, but the fact that, and I noticed the coverage was pretty forceful against him, and then now that he's the nominee, everything's good.
I think that was certain elements in the Democratic Party trying to figure out a way to get out of it, and he was too popular with the Democratic Party base. That tells you everything you know about the Democratic Party base.
Scary time. And talk about what you were saying earlier. There's going to be some DSA candidates that are victorious come November.
There are people running for the state legislature who I vehemently disagree with, and who have a DSA member running against them in their primary. Who I'm like, this may be something where you're going from bad to a lot worse, and you get 7 or 8 or 9 Mamdani clones. Yeah. And that's not good for New York State.
No. All right, we better take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. Looking a little ominous out there, at least on the Frankly Speaking roof cam. Look at that, Joe. Brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. In that studio, Assemblyman, former Congressman, and current chair of the Steuben County Republican Committee. When you're being introduced, which order do you like it?
I have a lot of conversations, especially in Albany, that start with, I don't know what to call you. And I tell everyone always the answer is Joe. So some people call me Congressman, some people call me Assemblyman, people call me piece of whatever. I don't really care.
No. All right, let's go through all. Maybe we got a lot to talk about here. All right, but let's go through all these comments, Joe. You're gonna love them. Jack says, "Good morning, Frank and Joe. I never miss a show with Joe.
I appreciate
Thank you guys for always delivering a quality, common sense based program that rises above the usual monotonous far left wing media noise." Isn't that nice?
Well, this is the real conversations that we need to be having here in Hot Tub.
That's right.
This is a great show. Everybody should watch Frank.
I agree. All right, we need to be careful saying Newsom will never be president. Look what happened with Obama. No one knew him really before he ran. Yeah, what was he, 2 years in the Senate?
I think the difference there, and I hope that the listener is not correct. They may be. Who knows? The people, some very silly people like Mr. Obama and Mr. Clinton and Mr. Carter and whatever have been elected president. But I think the difference is Barack Obama was sort of a blank slate that you could sort of project onto him whatever you wanted him to be.
Sure.
Because when he started running, he had only been in the Senate for 2 years. Prior to that, he'd been a state senator. So he was very obscure, and so he could be whatever you wanted him to be. Gavin Newsom has a record as governor, has a record as lieutenant governor, has a record as mayor of San Francisco that you can't get away from. And he's got personal scandals out the wazoo. Going back to do a little research on him as mayor of San Francisco and his best buddy's wife and everything. So there's a record there that you can't get away from with Newsom in a way that you could sort of do in a different way with Senator Barack Obama.
I was shocked because I remember being kind of a political nerd, obviously. I was in my dorm room, and I liked Alan Keyes at the time. And
I remember, Ambassador Keyes, He ran against Obama.
And I remember watching that on C-SPAN and not thinking, I thought Alan Keyes did a great job. I never thought that moment that we could be seeing a Barack Obama. You know what I mean? but
that he would end up being president of the United States.
Yeah, it wasn't.
It all happened very fast. And remember, he's running against Hillary.
Yeah,
and that was Hillary. There's somebody else who's never going to be president.
Yeah, exactly. All right, Frank, Gavin destroyed California and has a mental illness and did an interview admitting it. He kind of did. I don't know if he worded it quite that way, but he's definitely, he likes to hear himself talk, and sometimes that's going to hurt him.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah, he's very, Gavin Newsom is a big fan of Gavin Newsom.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Ken writes in, when will Blakeman actually get the funds? A week before the election? The longer it's held up, the better for Democrats. It's been their plan from the first refusal, hold up funds as long as possible. The Democrats know that their policies will eventually hurt enough New Yorkers that it will be harder for them to stay in power, so they're working hard to hurt the competition and pass legislation to help them stay in power as more and more New Yorkers catch on to their tactics.
So Blakeman does not have a primary, right? Neither does Hochul.
Right.
So there is a disbursement schedule that starts after the primary, and it'll be based on, donations that he received that are matchable, which would be from New York State residents who are giving up to the first $250, and people who give up to $1,050. The first $250 is matchable. If you give more than that, it's not matchable. I believe is the exact current statute. But yeah, there is a set disbursement schedule, and once you hit the thresholds as far as number of donors and amount of contributions, then you receive a disbursement on that schedule for the donations you've gotten, and then you can continue to claim donations throughout the rest of the general election up to a cap. In each office has a different cap for it. So it should happen as a matter of course throughout the late summer and fall. So it's not something where, if they're following the rules, which is asterisk, big if, whatever, it's not something where it should be delayed all the way to the end. And again, his wins in court have been resounding and correct, in my opinion, and not in front of all Republican judges, for the record. So.
No, and it just looked like it was so partisan from the jump.
Oh, yeah.
And there was no denying it. But we got to take our last break, so get your last second comments in for Joe. We're going to ask about the upcoming primaries, which is less than a week, isn't it? That went fast.
Exciting.
Next Tuesday, 23rd.
Yeah, coming up.
Stay with us. A Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio, in that studio. Joe Sempolinski. All right, Joe, I know you're Steuben County, but we recently had Chris Moss on. We recently had Mark Margison. Mm-hmm. That's a big race in Chemung County. Yeah. And we've had many other guests on. And the big question I've asked all of them, and I'll ask you now, is how do we get voters out on primary day on Tuesday?
Yeah, I think it's important for people to vote. As you said, in Chemung County, every Republican in Chemung County can vote. Mm-hmm. In Steuben County, it's a little different. We've only got several towns where there are Republican primaries. Most towns, both cities, there is not. Democrats, they do have a statewide primary. The state controller, Mr. DiNapoli, has a three-way primary. So Democrats everywhere in the state of New York can vote in the primary, and both of the congressional districts that touch the Elmira media market, the districts that are currently held by Ms. Tenney and Mr. Langworthy, neither of them have a primary. There's no Republican primaries for them, but there are Democrat primaries for to determine who the Democratic nominee is. So basically everywhere in the media market, Democrats can vote for a statewide and a congressional primary, whereas for Republicans, Chemung County, everybody, and Steuben County, only 5 towns. So.
Yep, and I want to mention them again. It's Campbell, Town Supervisor, Town of Corning, Town Justice, Irwin Council Member, Lindley, Town Supervisor, and Highway Superintendent. So you got 2 on that one. And then Rathbone.
And the early voting site in Steuben County is in Bath.
Yeah. When does that end? Is that Saturday?
So it ends. There is no early voting on the Monday.
But
there is on the Sunday. Okay. So the Saturday and Sunday before the election, there is early voting. This coming Saturday and Sunday, you can go to Bath and vote. There will not be early voting on the Monday, and then on Tuesday, you vote at your normal location. If you're in one of those towns, it would be whatever the normal voting location is in that town. And then again, for the Democrats, whatever their normal voting location is throughout the county and in Chemung County, especially on the Republican side, whatever your normal voting location is.
Speaking of this, look what this viewer says. Frank, I voted early in Steuben County. That's great.
I encourage people to do it. it's the same process. There's still, the same chain of custody. There's no security issues that are different between an early in-person vote and a on election day in-person vote. And the phrase that we've used is sort of bank the vote, in the sense that you never know what's going to happen on Tuesday. You could be sick. Your kid could be sick. You could get called into work.
You might just forget.
You might just forget because it's one day and it's in June. It's not November. So in my case, I live in the town of Canisteo. So, there is no. I don't have anything to vote on. So I can't vote in the primary, but for those who are of a partisan affiliation in a geographic location where they can vote, I encourage them to vote early.
And your votes always matter. I'm always going to say that. It seems like in this year with the primary, especially in those small towns, they're going to matter just a little bit more.
Well, you're looking at potentially a low turnout election. I hope that people vote, but you're looking at potentially a low turnout election, and then of course your vote really matters. The lower the turnout, the more each individual vote could be determinative.
So if you're thinking, boy, I don't have time today, you do have time.
Yeah,
it's not going to
take a nice drive up to Bath.
Yeah, Bath, or even if you wait till the 23rd, you go to you're not going to wait in line.
No, I don't think it's going to be a huge.
No. And you get the sticker.
You get a sticker. It's not. It may not be as cool as a Frankly Speaking.
No, they won't let me. They won't let me hand those out.
No, they can't. Those out at the polling place.
No, I've asked them, but they said absolutely not.
Yeah, we got laws about that sort of thing.
But yes, get out and vote. There's no way to really help the candidates at this point other than vote, right?
Well, that is. I mean,
the most help you can do.
That there is nothing more important than actually casting a vote. If you have a candidate that you're supportive of. Talking to your friends and neighbors, especially people you have a direct personal relationship with, and saying, hey, I'm voting for candidate X. This is why. That may get some people out to vote that wouldn't otherwise vote, or vote a particular direction that they wouldn't otherwise vote. So if you're passionate about a particular candidate, or you're passionately against a particular candidate, please make sure that you talk to your friends and neighbors and persuade them to vote the way that you feel is in the best interest of your community.
All right, but another comment. Frank, you and Joe have a wonderful day. Well, thank you. People are so nice.
Yeah, people are friendly. This is great. Yeah, the folks that are in TV land for watching Frank are a great crew, and when I am out and about and people say they see me on Frank, it's always pretty cool.
Yeah, isn't that nice? All right, before we go, what's your July 4th look like? 250 years celebrating. We had a poll recently that showed I think 23% of Democrats, only 23 said that they would put out an American flag. Will you have an American flag out?
Well, I am going to be celebrating the 250th vigorously, and certainly we want to fly our colors. And what's cool about the street that I live on is you look down the street and there's flag.
Isn't that great?
So we want to be flying the colors. And I have two young children. I have a 7-year-old and a 6-year-old. And I think this is an opportunity for me as a dad to explain to them just how special this country is, and just how lucky they are to be Americans, and how proud they should be to be Americans, and to proudly, put on your patriotic shirt, your flags and red, white, and blue, and all that. And it's an opportunity for all of us to pass down to the next generation. As Ronald Reagan said, freedom is always sort of one generation away from being lost, and this can be an opportunity to project that. I'm really happy actually with where my kids go to school. My young daughter, who's in kindergarten, they must have been learning about the government. She came home one day, she goes, "Daddy, did you know that there are 3 white buildings in Washington, D.C. where they have the government?" And she was referring to the Capitol and the Supreme Court and the White House. And that was a cool opportunity, because when I was inaugurated into Congress, my younger daughter was 2.
Right.
And so I don't really totally know if she remembers it. So I pulled up the C-SPAN website and I showed her my inauguration speech. I'm like, baby, you were in one of those buildings and you met some interesting people. And,
that's for sure.
And so I'm all about passing on our beautiful heritage. We are the luckiest people in the history of the world to be Americans.
We are.
And to pass that on to my children and to everybody else, the next generation is, I think, the best thing that can come out of the 250.
I agree. Well, Joe, that does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll have to do this again soon. But since we won't see each other before, happy July 4th. Happy
July 4th, happy Independence Day, and happy 250th to all the people out there and USA.
That's right. All right, join us tomorrow morning at 6.